Hello people, and welcome to the updated version of how to start your city, this time for 2021. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you for all support on the 2020 version. This video has hit nearly 1 million views now, which is insane, like really quite truly insane. Thank you for all the support on that. And today we're going to look at something similar, slightly different start to the city in terms of road network, and also introduce some little detailing tips and tricks that we picked up from Palaven. If you are new to the channel, there will be several links down below to my Cities Skylines series, alongside a link to instant gaming should you wish to pick up some of the DLCs that you're missing for pretty cheap. The link is good, go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. Let's have a quick run over of kind of what I have installed here. I am playing with every single major DLC and content creator pack. You can see they all have little green ticks next to them on this DLC list on the left hand side here. So if you're seeing something that in my game that isn't in your game, it's probably from a DLC. But if you leave a comment below, I will do my best to let you know what comes with each DLC. And we also have a video on the channel kind of rating each of these if you are new to the game. That might be useful and help you decide which one you want to get first. There is one mod active on this city, and I would recommend that you put it on for all of your cities. This is unlimited oil and ore, so for those that don't know, these two natural resources will deplete over time as you extract them from the earth. This makes placing extremely large oil and ore areas really off-putting, because after a certain amount of time they will become redundant. Whether or not you want to put so much time into building a really impressive oil refinery or like an ore mining pit is up to you. If you play with it on, then the resource will never deteriorate and you can mine it forever. This start that we're going to look at today will apply to any map, be it DLC, base game vanilla, or workshop. However, just for a little bit of change, I'm going to play on the Crater Falls map from the Sunset Harbour DLC. But the same principles, start, and design will work on whatever map you decide to play on. So let's get started, shall we? Okay guys, so the game has loaded and we don't need to pause anymore. At last year's version we needed to hit pause, but when you load up the game, the flow of time will already be paused for you, so we don't need to do anything in that regard. The reason that we do want to pause is because as we start placing roads here and building our city, we can see that they have a very small upkeep cost per week. Now that's per cell. As we place that, we are going to have to pay that upkeep cost. And currently we are making nothing because there's no taxpayers, there's no way for us to make money out of the Sims at the minute. So we can't afford to pay for them. So we're going to leave the game on pause just to not drain through our 70,000. Now many different people have lots of different ways of starting the city. Some people will keep it as cheap as possible. I don't like that. We're going to go very expensive, we're going to use the loans, we're going to burn through all of our 70,000. But I think at the end we'll have a city that is quite aesthetically pleasing. And we will also carry on expanding this city in Sunday's live stream for those of you that are catching this on the Saturday. But this is it. This is what we are greeted with. These are our two starting roads, and we have a tile to play with. And that's about it. This is kind of how every city starts out, right? Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into our roads tool and we are going to grab the only road that we can at the minute out of the small roads tab, and this is the 2-lane road. And we will upgrade this in a moment as well. So you also notice I'm playing with right hand drive. Of course, these same designs and theories will still work if you're playing left hand drive. All you need to do is flip it over and mirror it and you'll be fine. So I'm going to click from the edge of my first road. And then we can see, as we start to draw out with these little road tools, we see a couple of little markers appear. You see how that second blue line appears as we move closer towards it? This is an indicator of 5. If we go to that blue marker, then we are at 10. That will be 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on and so forth. This will just keep going. So it's a nice way for you to measure out the distances that you're working with here. If you don't want to see them, we can come into our Snap 2 tools and turn off road length. And we'll see that those lines no longer appear as we move in and out. But while we're starting out, it's a good idea to have all our snapping on whilst we get used to how each one of them behaves. So I'm going to come out and I'm going to draw a distance of 30 tiles with this road right here. And we can see now that this unlocks the 2-lane one-way road. And as this is a one-way highway, it's a main kind of arterial road, one-way systems are our friend. So we're going to upgrade these two into one-ways. And this can be done by coming down to our upgrade tool, where we have our freeform, curve, and straight road tools down here as well. Just upgrade and click it through. And then we can do the same thing again on this side. So obviously now we want this road. And we can see as we hover over this road here, we see these little dotted blue line appear from it. This is a road guideline snap point. So it just helps us stay parallel with the road. And we can see this one here. So we can get the point where those two road guidelines converge. We know that will stay perfectly parallel with our two roads here at the start. Okay. Super. Fantastic. So this will do for right now. We're going to kind of come back and continue to expand this down here. And we're really going to kind of model the city around this highway network as we look to connect it up to, you know, whatever you're going to connect it into. Everyone's city will be different. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put it into our medium roads, and we are going to grab a 4-lane road. So these are obviously double the size of these. They can hold more traffic. You can see it says it will support medium traffic. So where I'm going to place this is I'm going to kind of look down onto the two roads that I've just drawn in here, right? This is where we want to kind of be working from. And then we can see this road here. This little blue circle. This is the road guideline marker. And what I'm looking to do is to leave 3 tiles between this road and where I place this one. So you can see we have that 3 tile gap in between. And then I'm going to click. And then we're going to draw out by a distance of 30 tiles like that, okay? So we're going to have a nice little city start here. Let's also trim away some of these trees. If you're wondering how to delete stuff, if you do misplace something, you can press B on your keyboard, or there's a little bulldozer icon down here in the bottom right as well. Okay. So here we have, so far, just very basic road layout, nothing particularly special at the minute, but we'll hopefully change this. We're going to come back into our small roads. We're going to grab the 2-lane again, 2-lane one-way. And then from this first road guideline marker here, which is the interval of 10, we're going to come up until we intersect with the road guideline of this road right here. Okay, and then draw that across. Then we're going to come back to the point where the highway road switches into the 2-lane road using the same road tool again. And we're just going to draw up. Okay. Nice and simple. Nice and simple. So now we have this base frame in, we're going to come in and grab another medium road. And then we're going to come onto this first little blue circle, which again is a road guideline marker of an interval of 10. So clicking on this, I'm now going to draw it up and parallel with my highway roads, which you can see will take us perfectly to the road guideline and the road length marker of 10 tiles. And then we need to increase now. We need to raise up. We're going to build a bridge. So to do this, we use our page up and down keys on the keyboard. However, you can also set the elevation step down here in the bottom left, which is indicated by this little green bar. There are 3 steps of 9, 6, and 3 meters. Middle one being 6, smaller one being 3, and of course, the taller one being 9. So you can see, so you hit page up, we're going to elevate the road. Page down, we'll bring it down. We change these inclines, you can see how it gets smaller each time. And then come down to the final one, and then it's very small. The vast majority of the time in Cities Skylines, you should always be using the lowest elevation step. It'll give you much more realistic slopes and curves and just kind of generally nicer looking bridges. It's very rare you would use the top one, but we want to come down to the lowest elevation step here, right? Then we're going to come out to that marker of 10 and that road guideline again, and then we're going to come up by 2 presses of the page up button. And I think it's the D-pad for console players. So we're going to come up by 2 presses, and then we're going to agree to that. And this is going to give us a nice little road that's going to start to elevate up here. And then I'm going to take this second bridge and I'm going to move it up to this road guideline right here. Do not press this in just yet. I'm going to draw it in and then we're going to move it back 2 steps. So we're 8 tiles out in road length. And then before we place it, we want to move up 1 more incline with our page up key. And then we'll have a bridge that's going to come around like this. Okay. And then what we can do is we can now just grab it and we can draw it into the middle of our 2 highway roads right here. It will clear it. You need to be at least kind of 3 small steps up to clear one of the roads with a bridge. And then there's a nice little tip here that we can use to get this symmetrically perfect on this side. If we click the end of the road that we've just drawn and then take it back to the point where we elevated up to this elevation, we can see it's a distance of 1540 in construction cost. So we can do the same here again. We'll come out by 1540. Fantastic. And then we'll come back to this one and we'll see that we elevated slightly here. So we'll measure this. This is 1240. So we can come back to this one and come out by 1240 and go down an elevation step using our page down key. Fantastic. And then again, we can test this one, which was 1520, which will bring us back down to earth. At 1520. There we go. So just redrawing those measurements in will give us a perfectly symmetrical bridge either side. Which, you know, if you're a fan of symmetry, this will, I think this will go quite a long way to helping you enjoy the game a little more, if you know this little measurement tip, I suppose. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to hook up everything exactly the same as we have it on this side. So we'll just start to draw that out. So again, we can do the exact same tip that we just did. We can check out these measurements. It's 600 just flat on the ground, so we know that we can come out by 600 right here, and you know, we can see that we're leaving the same number of tiles between the highway and these internal road networks. Then we can go back into our smaller roads and we can grab ourselves a 2-lane one-way and then bring this down again, sticking to the same road guidelines that our first road was on, and then we can draw this one in too. Okay. So let's make sure that if your one-way arrows are flowing a different way than they should be, come into your upgrade tool with your 2-lane one-way road selected, and if you right-click, you'll see that you will change the direction of the one-way system. This will work on any road that has kind of a one-way system flow on it. See, we can do it with the highway roads here. I know you can tell if there's something wrong, you'll have these little broken road icons that tells you something is wrong, like we have over here at the end where, you know, the one-way systems just end. It's a useless road at the minute, but what we will do is this road will be upgraded into highway and it will become kind of a key arterial way of people to get around the city. Okay, so this is what we're looking at right now. Okay. So the point of the bridge is to help separate our industrial traffic. We also used a roundabout, which we'll use during the live stream down here when we expand this city. But I thought we'd go for a bridge for 2021. We'll kind of see how it works out here today, shall we? So we'll now begin to map out a little bit of our industrial network and place in some of our key services, such as electricity and water and sewage. So I'm going to come over to the left-hand side of my little highway road network here that we've already drawn out. And I'm going to come out to the left-hand side this time by another 10 tiles, or 600. It is worth me noting here that as you draw over props like bushes and rocks and trees and undergrowth, that the game, it doesn't actually delete them. If we place a road in and then delete it, you can see that the trees are still there. The game does have a tree count without mods, so if you're looking to kind of save on that tree count and save a little bit of your FPS as well in the long run, then it's a good idea to come through and clear some of these kind of trees and general nature props, I guess, before you actually draw a road network down onto them. So just a little tip that, you know, clear out the area before you start building in it is always kind of a good bit of practice to get into. Okay, super. Then I'm going to come into my small roads. I'm going to start grabbing some 2-lane roads. Now, because this is kind of a noob-friendly guide, we're going to be mainly sticking with grids and boxes here because they're the most easiest to get into. I'm going to draw down by a distance of 440 and then come across to this road guideline and draw up. Okay. And then some again, we're going to start coming out in little boxes, just matching up with the road guideline. Then let's take away some of these trees and props. You can see how many of them are that are hidden beneath these little rocks here. Quite a few. And then again, just coming out and drawing in some really simple boxes, okay? Really basic grid patterns, so you can keep them even, you can throw their shape, make some a little shorter, a little longer, but just get used to how kind of the tiles behave and how the road networks will snap into each other. Okay? And then again, I think I'll do one more grid down here, just 10 by 10 grids, 400, and then we come back up to the main road and draw this one in. So just some really basic, simple grids and patterns here that we can follow. The first thing we want to place in is going to be our electricity. Yeah, we have two options at the start of the game. We do have wind turbines, which when we select them, we can see that they generate this little overlay on the map here, some spots darker than others. And this is actually the wind production. Every map will be different here. You can see how some of the darker spots obviously have more wind, which means that this wind turbine will produce more electricity. So we can see in the darker spot here, it will produce 7 megawatts. Over in the lighter spots, it will produce 4. I would recommend just going for the coal power plant when you're starting out before you start getting involved in wind turbines, because their efficiency will fluctuate pretty heavily depending on your map. So it's easier right now just to go with the coal power plant. So we're going to bring this over into our industrial area, and we want to keep this separate away from our sims for a couple of reasons. First reason being that this is a pollutive building. It produces both ground pollution and noise pollution, which we can see in the top right of the little overlay here has 2 values of 50 per pollution point. Our sims don't like to live near pollution, just as you wouldn't in real life. You wouldn't want to live next door to a coal-powered power plant. It would be very loud, very noisy, and extremely pollutive, so it's just not something that we really want to do. So I'm going to come into my smallest tile here, and I'm going to place this in just about there. And we can see now that we've placed in a power building, we have a little kind of blue circle that appears around it. Well, not a circle, I guess it's just a shape, isn't it? And this is where power will jump to. If there's buildings, say here, we'll kind of see how this works as we go through the tutorial today. And how power will interact with other buildings. Okay, so we have a power station. This is what it looks like. Cute little asset. If you're obviously wondering why I have so many power stations, again, it will be because of the DLCs. This is the kind of stuff that DLCs add, you know. More options for power. You can get it cleaner to the point where you're producing no pollution. There's a couple of different options. Then we're going to come into our water and sewage, and again, you'll have a couple of options. We'll stick with the kind of base game vanilla stuff. We're going to use a water pumping station. So when we're in this option here of having our water pumping station in, and we're looking at our water options, we can see that the water in the game generates all these little arrows along the waterways. This is indicating the flow of water, and this is important. So we're going to place in a water drain pipe, which is sewage, and a water pumping station, which will pump water for people to drink and wash clothes in, etc. You know, whatever they want to use their water for. However, it's important that we have the water pumping station upstream from the sewage pipe, otherwise the water pumping station will just suck up all the sewage that is dumped out upstream if you have it that way. So, water pumping station, I'm going to have this a little upstream here. And then I'm going to place my water drain pipe just a little further downstream. Okay? This is super important. This is about a decent space. You can do it further than this. Wouldn't go any closer. If you start to see a little symbol that has like a sad face drinking a glass of water, it means that you have water pollution, and 99% of the time, this is why. If you do go with a water tower, which obviously can be placed on land, you also want to make sure that you're not placing this near polluted buildings, because it will suck up ground pollution and poison your sims. But this, for right now, is going to be the easier way to get started with these two. So now we have them in, we're going to come in with our water pipes and we're going to hook them together. And then we're going to drag out from either one, it doesn't really matter which one. We're going to drag a water pipe level with our road here. Okay. And then we're going to start drawing this across our road network. Let's come from about here. And then we can start hooking this in. So we can see, as we draw out these little blue water pipes, they have this blue radius around them. This is just their catchment area. This is what they're going to water. In terms of placing these as efficiently as possible, you can come out by a distance of 460. And then come down parallel with the next one. You can see that their catchment areas will overlap near perfectly. And you'll get the most efficient placement out of them by doing it this way. So you can measure it again, exactly how we did with the roads. Measurements of 460. So we've watered a decent area of our start here. And that's going to be nice. However, we also need to remember that these two water pumping facilities down here, they do need power, because they just need power. Now, in terms of doing this, you can place a wind turbine down here to power them both. However, they are expensive and they're a lot more upkeep per week than the power lines are. So I guess it depends per map. You can either place a wind turbine here, or you can just power them with power lines. So we'll draw them across. Again, we can see that they need power because they have this blue marker around them. So this is fine. So we'll now drag this all the way along. Okay. Bring it over our highway. And then into the little blue catchment area from the power station. And then when we play the game, the power will flow through these lines all the way down here. And then power these two facilities over here. When we do have buildings closer, the power will sink through. You don't need the power lines. They don't look the best, and there's no kind of small town version of them. It is always these enormous power pylons. They're a little bit harsh on the eye. But you can download mods from the workshop for different assets if that's what you're wanting to do. But for right now, this little power system is going to keep everyone supplied over here. Okay, so let's start introducing some residential areas into the city, and then we can actually hit play and watch the city grow up a little bit. So we've got a little under 10,000 of our budget left to spend. This is what we have so far. We have our power, a small industrial area that's ready to go. Highways are hooked in on both sides. People can get in and out of the city as they need to. So now let's build them somewhere to live and somewhere to shop, shall we? So we're going to start coming out with some happy little roads. We're going to come along to this second smaller blue circle, which is the road guideline marker again. So this would be 20 along this road. That was 10, 20, 30, 40. See how they remain? Very useful for measuring distances and whatnot. Okay, then we're going to grab from this point right here, and then we're going to come out by a measurement of 10, which is 400. And then we're going to come across by 10, which is another 400. Going to come down by 10, which is another 400, and then come up and across. So what we're looking to generate here is 4x4 zonings like this, and we'll run over this in a minute. Let's just kind of get some of these shapes in here, shall we? So I'll do it again, 400 by 400, and then we can just keep this pattern going. It might seem a little basic and kind of rudimentary right now, just to be drawing in super straight boxes like this, but whilst you're getting to know the game and just kind of figuring out how it works and kind of the best ways for you to play, grids are always a nice friendly noob option. Okay, fantastic. Now I'm just going to move my power line over a little bit here as well, so we can squeeze in some more shapes here. But eventually the power will sink through these as well. So the power line is just temporary for right now. Okay, So there we go. There is kind of our initial start. We've burnt through all of our money. We have $600 left. You might have a little more or a little less depending on if you've had to delete something and get a refund. Or you might have, you know, a little more if you've gone smaller or a slightly different design. But our city is now ready to start. So now we can come into zoning and we can grab some low density residential, which will allow houses and sims to spawn, which is what we want, because this will cause our population to increase, and we want our population to increase because we have a series of milestones that we need to move through. You can see once we hit a population of 420, we will unlock a bunch of features, services and buildings, and this theme continues as we move through every single milestone. As the milestones get bigger, kind of the infrastructure and the buildings you will not get bigger, so you can start producing more downtown type builds, and you can just see it goes on. Everyone's screen here of what they unlock at each milestone will be different dependent on what DLC that they have. So if yours looks a little different, that's probably why, but don't worry about it for right now. So when we come into our zoning tool, we have a couple of different tools down here in the bottom left. Again, we have a fill option, which will fill out every adjacent tile that it can. See, as we hover over it, it'll give you information as to what area it's going to fill out. If we don't like what we've done, we can right click and it will unzone. When we come into marquee, we can specifically paint out the tiles that we want to spawn in various different kind of shapes and combinations like this. And then the last two options are pretty similar. These are just small brush tools that you can paint in. I very rarely use these brush tools for zoning. Just seems a little bit redundant, but there's a couple of different options as to how you can zone. And again, big right clicks will always unzone whatever you've zoned in. So when we're zoning, the biggest an asset will grow to is 4x4, so a tile like this. Okay. There's multiple different combinations of tiles you can do. 4x3, 3x3, 1x2, 2x3. You know, there's all different assets. These will still grow, but the biggest it will grow to is 4x4. Now the reason we've gone for perfect 10x10 grids here is because we can squeeze in 4x4 zoning back to back like this. See how it fills out the total grid in 4x4 sections? This is what we want to do. It's going to give us a much more aesthetically pleasing starting suburb because the houses are going to be a lot more even, and they just tend to look nicer the larger that the zoning tile is. So let's go ahead and get this in, shall we? So right now, all we have in our demand bar is green residential, which is indicated by these 3 bars down here. Currently no demand for commercial or industrial. So we're just going to play with our low density residential for right now. Now because I want those perfect 4x4 houses coming in, I'm going to start drawing them in this fashion right here. And we can actually play the game right now, which can be done with your 1, 2 and 3 keys on the keyboard, or the little play and pause button down here as well. So okay, just going to start drawing out these little grids right here. Now the reason I'm leaving the adjacent ones empty is because if I was to just draw in the 4 tile in one go, we'll kind of see this one as an example. You can see here how we've got a 4x3 that's generated. And there's another one over here, and you can see how it's thrown my perfect 4x4. Whereas in this one here, because these two have now grown, I can fill in the next batch. So we'll kind of see an example here of the point of specifically zoning, how much of a difference it will make in the long run. And again, we've got the same thing coming on here. Don't worry about our budget right now. We are making a monumental loss, but this will be rectified. It's fine. So I'm going to carry on doing just these small little happy 4x4 zonings for my residential. And then we'll come in here as well and do something similar. Okay, so we can see here now that because this grew up in all different shapes and sizes, it's a little more uneven, a little more mismatched, this block, when we compare it to a perfectly zoned, specifically zoned 4x4 housings, right? It doesn't make that much of a difference. It really is just purely aesthetic. If it doesn't bother you that much, then you don't have to do it. It's totally fine. So I'm just going to carry on sweeping through, placing in my 4x4s. And then I'll do something similar along this side of the road as well. Start bringing in some 4x4 zonings here. Might save a little bit of space between them for some paths and maybe cut through the road at some point too. So I'm not going to fill it out kind of totally everywhere. And we'll just kind of see what comes in. So while all these zonings develop, let's have a little talk about the budget panel, shall we? So I'm going to come into my electricity tab, and we can see that it gives us this little infographic up here in the top left. And currently our Sims are demanding 2 megawatts of electricity to power their homes, and we are producing 40, which is massively overkill. Like we're producing way much more electricity than we need. We come into our economy tab down here in the bottom right. We can actually set the budget for electricity. Well, we can set the budget for basically everything, but for right now, just electricity, roads and water. If you're not playing with the day-night cycle on, you don't need to worry about this bottom slider here. However, if you are playing with the day-night cycle on, then you will. So I'm going to bring my electricity budget down a little bit, which is going to help save some upkeep costs per week. And it's also going to reduce the amount of electricity that we produce per week. See how it's dropped down to 18 now? Because we've reduced the budget, so I could even drop it a little further. And just help save some of that initial starting money when we're starting up the city here. So I'm just going to slightly reduce my water bill alongside the electricity bill as well. Okay, so now things are growing and we've got some cars moving around here. We can see that we have some more demands on our other bars here, some commercial and some industrial. So again, with our commercial zones, this is going to produce kind of shops and stores that our Sims can go and enjoy. Also provides jobs as well. And it also provides something for our industrial area to provide goods too. And again, I think I'm going to keep my commercial along the main street. You know, think about where you live in real life. Most people, they'll have like a commercial high street or kind of like a main avenue where a lot of the stores and the shops are located. So, you know, it's very unlikely I would see, you know, an enormous batch of commercial this close to residential, which will also cause noise pollution as well, because these are, you know, shops. So I'm going to start drawing in my commercial, up along the main street. Now again, if you want to be very specifically zoned in here, then you absolutely can. You just have to wait for the next one along the tile to spawn. But I'm not too bothered. For a big main street like this, I'm happy for it to be just one solid block. And this will be fine. And then maybe have a little along here as well. Okay, so very similar to our residential, we'll now start to mark out some space for some commercial to start spawning, which will satisfy this demand right here. We also have industrial zone, so let's come across to our yellow industrial zone tab. And again, we can start specifically zoning. It's not essential again, but it will certainly help with kind of the final look here, if you like. Okay, let's have some of these on. I don't want to zone this tile here because this is the exit road out of the city, so I'll keep a smaller one there. And I would also like to keep this main arterial road free because industrial zonings produces much more heavier traffic, as you would imagine. I don't want them stopping and starting on this main road, so I'm going to leave that one free. And then zone in this one right here. And then similar again on this side. And we can probably get some zoning here. So this road will stay free. I'm not going to have any zoning along this road right here. Keep it all empty. And then we'll start to see some industrial buildings pop up. Again, very similar to the power plant, they are pollutive industry. There's a couple of different kind of specializations and policies and different things that you can apply to reduce that pollution. But for right now, all you need to know is that industrial buildings are pollutive. So keep them away from your residentials, basically. And here we go. Here's the first people joining in. So we've got some little commercial high street buildings coming in right now. I think this is pretty nice. I'm happy with this. They're coming down Main Street. And here come all the people into Enjoy the new town. Fantastic. Wonderful. So we can see now, as the city is growing, our deficit on the weekly income is going down. We're going to start to make money because we have taxpayers in here now. We have industry making us money. So we're just going to slowly move into the green and continue to satisfy these demands as they appear until we hit the first milestone. I believe, is it 420, is it? Something like that? Yeah, 420. So 420 population, we are well on our way to making that. I'm going to continue to zone out some more of my little residential patterns here because we have some residential demand. So this is going to help us move towards that first milestone. You can leave the game on 3 speed, it will run a little faster. But yeah, just take a minute to enjoy watching your city grow, get a lay of the land, check out some of the assets, and just have a nice time, really. It's a wonderful little game if you're picking it up for the first time, and yeah, I really enjoy it. It's a nice little one. So come in here again as well. Let's keep my my little 4x4s going. See here how I zoned it up wrong. So I want 4x4 there first of all. Well, it's not wrong, it's just not how I like to do it. You don't have to do this, but you know, it's a tip I can give you. Specific zoning will give you a much neater, uniform suburb. And as you can see, we're looking across it now. It's just nicer, isn't it? At least I think so anyway. I guess not everyone will agree. Not everyone will agree with that. Okay, so things are flying along now. Just kind of watching the city grow here. We're very nearly at that first milestone, which will be there pretty much now. There we go. Fantastic. So we now have a population of 420. This has unlocked taxes and loans, which is fantastic. This will give us a massive influx of cash. We also have new services, garbage, healthcare, education, and a bunch of new buildings that correlate to these new services. For example, landfill site is garbage, medical clinic is healthcare, elementary school is education, etc., etc. So we're going to close this little icon and then we are going to pause the game. We are going to dive into our economy tab and we're going to come across to taxes. Now we can set the taxes for each of the zonings that we've been working with so far. Low density commercial and residential and industrial, and the high density residential and commercial and office zoning, which is essentially the high density version of industrial zoning. But we're a fair way from these milestones yet, so we don't need to worry about them. The golden rule for Cities Skylines is 12% for your taxes, 12 to 13. You'll make decent money without absolutely murdering the demand. So you can see right now we have a load of demand for residential zone. If I was to fly my taxes up to 29% residential tax, this demand would shoot through the floor, everyone would be unhappy, and we'd start to see moving out. So you can't just make vast amounts of money. 12% is the golden marker. Set your taxes for 12% for every of them, you'll make a lot of money and everyone will be happy. We can then come into the loans and we can see that we have Silver Sunset Bank wants to give us £20,000, so we will take that, absolutely, thank you very much. And now we need to place in a couple of those services that we've just unlocked because, you know, we need to give our Sims some services and also begin to move towards the next population milestone, which is going to be at 800, which gives us a whole bunch of new stuff as well. Okay, so the first and most important is going to be garbage. If we have a landfill site here, and we can see from its overlay that it is a ground pollutive building, and we can see that represented by this enormous purple circle that emanates from this asset. If you are playing with the Green Cities DLC, you will have options to use the recycling centre at this point in the game. However, for most of you starting out the game, you won't have the Green Cities DLC, so there's no point to worry about the recycling centre just yet. Okay, so I'm now going to begin to expand my industrial road. Oh, we also have a little icon here. We'll cover what this means in a minute. So I'm just going to draw out a little road. And then I'm going to place my landfill site here. Now this will go around and collect garbage from residences, industrial, commercial. We'll see the icon as it pops up, but this icon over here, you will probably see this when you start out. This is a not enough workers. This simply means that there's not enough people in the city, and we know this because of this enormous green demand for our residential. So we just simply need to expand the population to provide enough workers for these people, for this company, I guess. So we're going to come back over, and you'll notice that because we hit the milestone, we also got a big influx of cash, and we also took the loan as well. So I can now continue to expand my suburban residential pattern in a similar fashion to what we have been doing. Again, all moving towards that next milestone. Going to keep it a really simple grid pattern. We can see now that our power line is fracturing the lines, so we can take a little bit of this out and rework it slightly. So we can see now that we can just send the power across to this kind of blue catchment area. It will travel all the way through here, and then once we have some power in here, we'll be able to link through to this side. So we'll just wait for these buildings to come in, and then we can hook our power back through. We'll get to the point where you're eventually just kind of having your power sync through all the different buildings and assets rather than having these enormous power lines everywhere. So don't worry about kind of their very harsh aesthetic appeal in a minute. It will calm down. Okay, so again, just slowly specifically zoning, taking my time. Starting to make plenty of money now because we're getting lots of taxpayers in. You can see it's a super expensive start to the city. Some people will prefer to use dirt roads to start out the city because they're super cheap and you pay like basically no upkeep on them. But you know, you have to kind of go back and sort it all out eventually anyway, so let's do it from the start. Okay, here's another warning icon. We can see that they have a little water droplet above them, so let's make sure first of all that they are covered, and we can see that they're not. So this is our issue. So I'm going to bring another pipe down here. Can't quite make it because of the map boundary where we haven't unlocked that next tile, so I can't do the full efficiency measurement, but this will be fine for right now. We'll just draw in some little water pipes and I'll allow them to join the suburb. So I'm going to keep my pattern going here. Again, just perfect 10 by 10 grids. You might think it's a little bit boring, but honestly, it's all you need for starting out and learning the game. We'll just start to generate ourselves a nice little suburb here. Okay, and again, come across with that specific zoning and wait for people to come in. So keeping our eye on our demand bars here again, we can see we have really big demand for industrial right now, and a little bit of command for commercial as well. So let's come across to our industrial area, spend a little bit of our money expanding our industrial layout, because we know that we can get in a lot of different industrial zonings into these spaces right here. Big one there. Opportunity here too. Yeah, and just as you start to learn the mechanics of the game and the mechanics of how industries works and all the different stuff that you can get involved with, you can start getting involved in some more advanced road patterns. One thing I would absolutely champion from the start of playing Cities Skylines is using Google Maps and Google Earth. All the Google mapping tools are fantastic for this game. You know, you've got so much inspiration just at the drop of a hat, really. Okay, so this is going well. This is going well. Our town is growing. We are making decent money. We've got some money in the bank. We've got lots of demand coming in. Everyone is having a fantastic time. However, let's also check our milestone again that we just unlocked, and we can see that we also unlocked healthcare and education during this milestone. So let's start to educate our Sims, shall we? So we have a couple of options. Again, dependent on the DLCs and themes that you have active, we'll kind of show what you have here. They're basically just reskins of different buildings. So the community school is an elementary school from the Green Cities DLC. The elementary school is the regular elementary school from the base game. And we can see we have a bunch of stuff locked here as well, which will come with milestone progression. So the only thing we can place right now is going to be our elementary schools, or our community schools. So we can just place these along a main road, right? And that would be the end of it. But because they're kind of You know, a little more important buildings, you know, it's a school. You would expect a little bit of like a hub and a community to be based around it. That's exactly what I'm going to do with kind of, I guess, my first town centre. You know, we're going to build a little hub where there might be a police station, a couple of schools, fire department, etc. But I don't just want to keep going straight here, you know. This road is just kind of going to keep going and going and going. It's eventually going to reach the water, and it's just a little bit boring if we just have this enormous straight road here, right? So let's introduce some shapes and kind of textures into this road here. So I'm going to come across to my curve road tool, and I'm going to draw this out by a distance of 10. And again, very similar, but you know we're at a distance of 10 when we reach the second blue line here. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to move. And then I'm going to move to that second marker of 10 again. So that'll give me a perfectly curved road if we come out by 10 and then curve by 10. And then I can switch back to my straight road tool, and then we're going to come out by a distance of 20. Okay. So I've now got this little kind of just nice curve. It's a nice change of shape, you know. Then it's also probably time as well for me to now start introducing a couple more ways into this suburb, because at the minute everyone is trying to bottleneck through this one. But I don't want lots of, you know, I don't want to be doing it kind of with each of these right here. Because this way we're placing too many junctions on the arterial road, which means people are constantly stopping and starting, which will lead us to future traffic problems. So if you're wondering why I'm not doing it kind of every single junction that's in the suburb, that's why. Let's work on placing our first school in, shall we? So I think from this point right here, just where the curve starts, I'm going to come out by a distance of, let's say, 200. And then I'm going to come down by 320. And I'm just going to place my elementary school here. Okay, it doesn't need power, because you can see now how the power catchment will work. We're very nearly out of power as well. We will need to buff the production in a minute. So you can see how we don't need the power lines everywhere. Once buildings are tethered into an initial power source via these power lines, it will just spread from building to building. So you don't need those power lines everywhere. Okay, and I've got a little more commercial demand now as well. So I'm going to carry on fleshing out with my marquee tool. Maybe some larger commercial zonings along this main street here. Okay. Start producing a little bit of a design around the community school. Okay, fantastic, wonderful. Just keep letting it go. I like playing on 1 speed, which annoys a lot of people. But you know, we're just watching the town come to life here. I think it's always nice when you first start like this, you know. I watch all these people walking along the bridge here. You know, you might think this looks a little weird right now, but once we have the need and the budget to extend this out, we will mirror kind of this half on this side, and the highway will continue to flow through the town, and we can add in another roundabout junction, which we'll probably do on the live stream. Which, if you're watching this video after the live stream, it all will be linked in the comments below. But yeah, here we are, just enjoying our little city start here. Enormous residential demand again as well. So it tells me it's time to, you know, continue expanding my little suburban pattern here. And we're starting to reach the point now where the high street is bending away from this suburb. So that's probably something that I want to bear in mind. Again, let's clear out these trees. You know, we want to make sure that we're not eating too much into that tree count like we discussed earlier. You know, by all means, if you want to just fill all of this in and you think, why is this guy wasting his time? Just do that. You honestly can. You know, I'm just trying to give you a couple of little detailing ideas and kind of philosophies to follow, I suppose. Okay. So still growing. See how over here now we have a bunch of icons warning us that we don't have enough workers. Well, here is the next milestone anyway. So there is the next milestone. It gives us a new tile to work with, which is great for expanding out into the rest of the map. There are mods to unlock more tiles, 25 and 81 outside of the vanilla 9. If you are on PC, absolutely play with the Mortals mods. You'll have a much more enjoyable game. We unlock districts, policies, second loan, new services like police department and emergency services, unique buildings too. Also unlock some forestry and agriculture specialisation for our industrial areas, which is less pollutive. And also some more buildings, but again, policies and specialisations will look different depending on what DLCs you do and don't have, of course. Okay, so we can see now we have some warnings popping up across the city. This is fine, not enough water. And this is because they are out of our catchment area of the water pipes, of course. So we will continue to bring our water pipes down this way. And we're also basically out of electricity now anyway. Yeah, so this is the time to come back into our economy tab, come back to the budget, and we now want to boost that electricity. It does get to the point, you only really need to do this at the start, messing about with the budgets. Eventually your budget will get to the point where when you run out of power, you can just afford to place another power station and you'll just run from that. But penny pinching at the start of the game, it does help. So this is the sign of buildings with no power, right? And now we've adjusted the budget. As the game reads that we have adjusted the budget, we'll see these little warning icons disappear. There you go. And we can see we're now producing enough electricity again. Okay, so let's have a look at some new services and stuff, shall we? So last milestone we did actually unlock the medical clinic. Medicine is a little weird in Cities Skylines. They're essentially parks that increase happiness. It's very rare people will just get sick. You don't need to place them early game because they're 400 a week to upkeep, which is a fair old chunk of our budget right now. Yeah, we just don't need to place the medical clinic immediately. Okay, so we'll come into the firehouse now, and let's start to place some firehouses around. So as we come into our firehouse or emergency services tab, we can see that we get another overlay, which is the fire safety overlay. Everything that is red is flammable, which I guess would make sense. You know, all the trees are super flammable, and so is a lot of our industrial stuff as well. Okay, so really with the firehouse, you want to be placing this with good access to industrial areas. So I'm going to place him just as we come down from our bridge here. Okay, we can see it makes everyone happy. It's going to cause buildings to level up, which will increase their workers, how much tax they pay, and what they actually look like as they move through these little tabs here. Same again for residential, they have 5 levels, and commercial has 3 levels. So you can see how it's already moving up. Okay, and then similar again, we want our police station, so we're going to grab just a normal police station, and I think I'm going to have this around my little town centre here, okay? So I think now I'll bring a road through here, just destroy a little bit of the zoning, it's nothing too major. And then we'll bring a road up behind our main commercial high street here, okay? We'll keep this going for just a little bit longer. So I think rather than just placing my police station just on the road again, you know, it's a little bit boring, it just kind of blends in with the rest of the assets. I'm going to give it a little bit of purpose. I'm going to come out by distance of 160, and then let's come across by 200 this time. Okay, I go to my police department, and I'm going to place it just here. See, it makes everyone happy because they now have police, which will reduce our crime rate, which is right here. So you know, these services are essential. You know, if you don't have enough police coverage, your city will start to experience crime. If you don't have enough fire coverage, your city will start burning down. So it's all stuff to bear in mind, right? You see, you know, we still have all these little markers over here. People are like, you know, we need workers, and we can see that this is reflected in our residential demand. So it's time to just keep on expanding my residential pattern. Okay, so you'll probably notice that I'm leaving a fair bit of open space around the city as it grows. You know, I kind of have all this stuff here that's empty. There's a big chunk here that hasn't had anything filled in, and we're leaving little bits of space around the front of the school. This is because I'm waiting for the landscaping and disasters milestone to unlock, which is the next one, because it allows us to detail and place parkland, which for me is where a lot of the fun lies in Cities Skylines, you know, kind of detailing up. It's something that I think my subscribers appreciate anyway. If you are new to the channel, we do a lot of detailing. Maybe check out my main Let's Play series, Palaven. It's kind of a vanilla Cities Skylines series, and I think it's quite nice. Okay, so I think I want a road here as well, and there's a nice little snap point we can throw in a little bit of change of shape here. So I'm going to come out from this right in the middle of the curve and snap onto the road guideline of this road that's right here, and then straight down. So we can see how we just have like a slight change of shape here, a change of angle. I think it makes things a lot more interesting, doesn't it? I think it does. And then we're going to come through and continue to flesh out some of our commercial zoning along this side of the street here. And probably down here too. And I'm ready to carry on expanding my main street down there, so we can prepare for that with another 20 tiles and allow that to happen. Okay. But things are just ticking along here at the minute. I think they're okay. No, so I can get a little bird's eye view of our town now. See how everyone's flowing around. It'll look even cooler as well once we expand out the highway and see these roads getting some use, and you know, the bridge becomes just part of the city's infrastructure as we merge into maybe like a roundabout for the next highway exit. Lots of exciting things we can do. And again, lots more ideas on the channel if you are new around here. Okay, so as I'm just kind of expanding my residential pattern here, we can see more of these little water icons popping up and sewage as well. This is because we are not meeting the demand. And this is because we reduced the budget. So come back in, increase my budget, wait for the game to play. It'll pop in with the new budget that we just applied, and those warning icons will go away. So we can see again, we're getting more power warnings. This is fine. We can now come into our economy tab, and it's probably time to put power back to 100%. Because again, our budget can take it. You know, you can be a little more picky if you want. You can see we're still producing a little way more than we need, but I'm still making money per week. I'm getting taxpayers in. Houses are developing and growing up. And we can see that we're just starting to get a little city start going here. Everything's having a nice time. And there we go. This is kind of the milestone we'll take ourselves up to today, which gives us access to detailing, parks, lots of exciting things that really make this game quite super fun. So of course we hit that next milestone, we get a huge influx of cash. We can dive back into our loans. We can now pay back the initial 20 grand that we took, take it again, and then take out this new loan of 60,000, which puts us up to 91. You will just automatically pay these back as you take them. They'll just come out of what, you know, you have 260 weeks left to pay it. But if you're just in need of a quick hit of cash to go around, and you know, then the loans are there if you need them. Okay, let's have a little discussion about detailing to kind of round out the tutorial start here, shall we? So I mentioned at the start we have a lot of these very open green spaces, right? And when we come into our landscaping and disasters tool, we have an option called paths. Now, more paths are added with the game with the Park Life and Campus DLCs. And also I think Bicycle Path comes with After Dark. I will check that though. We also have Gravel Path and the Pavement Path if you're playing with just the base vanilla game. So we can come in and we can snap onto various things again. If we want it to be in the middle, we can snap to our road guideline here. Or we can turn everything off and then come in, or we can just go to just the grid and then snap into the grids. Or we can come into just the grid and the angle and then kind of get these perfect little shapes around here, okay? So there's a couple of different options we can do. So paths are really important. It allows people to walk. So you'll see as we introduce this path here, the AI will pick it up and read it as a way to get from A to B, rather than them having to walk all the way around. And similar again here, I think what I'm going to do is remove these commercial zonings. I don't want these here. Just unzone them and delete the building. And I might place in a park asset here. So now we have this tab unlocked called Parks and Plazas. And these are exactly what it says on the tin, just a collection of parks and plazas. So maybe At a dog park, you can see as we place them, everyone gets super happy. So Sims love parks, like they really love them. They will cause their houses to level up because it increases the land value, which is indicated by this one right here. So as we kind of place parks around it, we can see that land will gain higher value over time. Yeah, you know, parks are just generally good things, right? Everyone likes living near a park. So now I'm just going to use this block here to, you know, detail out. I'm going to bring my little path through. I don't want it too rigid, so I'm going to take off all my snapping. And maybe just bring it through right here, okay? Maybe add a connection in there. And then also one over there as well. And then maybe we can come into our trees under landscaping and disasters. And we can grab some similar looking trees that are already built into this little dog park asset that we just placed. Okay? And just place a couple of them almost as extensions of the asset, you know? So the point I'm trying to get across here is not everything has to be zoned. You know, a little bit of transitional parkland will make a vast amount of difference to the way that your city looks in the long run. So you've got people picking this up now. And no, it's also a nice boundary between residential and commercial as well. Okay. Might also wish to introduce an elevated walking path over my bridge here, so Sims can get back into from work faster. But I guess we'll kind of get to that, right? Okay, so I'm going to come back to my path here, and I'm just going to draw this all the way along with my angle. Okay, and then just use it as a little, almost kind of border. And then maybe I'm just going to introduce just some slightly more fractured commercial zoning along the back of this path, okay? Because again, it's in our demand. We have demand for commercial right now. And we can see that we've got people picking up this path now as a way to get around. It's an easier way for them to get to A to B, right? And we'll just start to see our high street developing. And again, very similar, you know, if we're going to be continuing this road network behind the bridge here, this is a perfect opportunity to come through with a pathway. So I might place in another one right here. Let's see, we came on the left tile here. Okay, do the same again. Just come through to our angle. And there we go. Okay. Right here, again, another great space for some transitional parkland, as I like to call it. Let's maybe dive into one of the other parks here. Let's go for maybe a large playground. We'll maybe have this up on the corner and then partner it with maybe just one little bit of commercial zoning. And then we can come back through with our pathways again. And we'll notice that with some of the park assets you can actually extend the path network out from them, like we have done right here. You don't always have to do that, and some of them you can't always do it, but it is an option available. So now I'm just going to flesh out just like a little bit of parkland using some paths, right? Again, using very similar tree assets that are included in the park asset that we place manually. These kind of park assets do get significantly more complicated if you have the Park Life DLC. You can do some really cool things with them, including making zoos and theme parks and little gazebos and stuff like that. If you want to kind of see a lot of the DLCs in action, I would recommend you check out my main Let's Play series, Palaven, where we pick up on a lot of these different kind of themes and ideas. Do lots of nice little detailing like this, so I'll kind of show you guys some Palaven towards the end. So you see how now that's just a little more interesting. You know, we've got people using these pathways. If you do have the Park Life DLC, then you can come through with a little bit of fencing. And this just adds like another little layer of like personality into the parkland, you know, if you have a little fence like that. And then you can just flesh out all these little awkward areas with smaller parkland, nice little detailing. Let's head across here to our town centre, where we're starting to formulate a couple of our services around. If you do have the fencing from Park Life, great little kind of detailing idea is to actually box in some trees with the fencing. We use this all the time in Palaven. We just come through, maybe grab like some smaller trees, something a little more interesting. A little box tree pattern out the front of a school maybe. Come onto our grid with a pathway. And then I can link the pathway to the road behind, which will eventually flow into more suburbia. And different things here. We can maybe even introduce smallest little bit of commercial zoning for outside the police station. Come through again with that fence. Just draw it in one side this time. Let's grab some different coloured trees, maybe something a little pinker. Bring in a little tree pattern. And then grab our road. And then we can feed, or grab our path, sorry. And then we can feed that through to whatever lies behind your police station. But you know, the point that I'm trying to make here is that not everything needs to be zoned. A little bit of fencing, a little bit of flowers, a little bit of parkland here and there. It will really help to just, you know, increase the aesthetic appeal of your city, I suppose. Is the word that we're looking for here, right? So you can see now, you know, our houses here are leveling up. This is what happens when we place parks. They move into the next level, which again makes them pay more tax. It holds more people, which thus increases our population, and so on and so forth. Leveling up is good. And then we'll just kind of have a little look here at placing in some highway decoration. So we could even bring in, it's like a real small repeated tree pattern through the middle. Help make it look a lot more important, a lot more, you know, plays on that symmetry again that we already have with the bridge. And similar again, if you do have the Park Life DLC, then fencing up alongside kind of your main highway roads really works a treat. Really does. But if you don't have them, you know, don't worry about it. It is just purely aesthetic stuff, but I hope you can see the difference, right? Especially like once you start detailing, this game becomes so much fun. It really does. It really does. Let's just have a little discussion about rounding out this highway entrance and exit before we kind of wrap up here. What we want to do is just remeasure these little entrance points again, so we can see the first straight piece from point to point is 400. So we can do the same here again. We'll come out by 400 and then we'll flip the direction. And same thing over here as well. Come out by 400 just under the bridge. There we go. However, we want to snap back onto our highway road, so we will continue to draw these out to the length that we need them. And again, we can see that the point from here to here is a cost of 480, so we can easily replicate that by dragging out and then sinking back in at 480. There we go. And now our highway can continue in that direction, which we will work on expanding on during that live stream on Sunday. And then we'll come through again with that repeated tree pattern, just to continue the effect, right? Go and grab some fencing. No, don't worry about following along exactly here. If you don't have all the DLCs, you will just be able to come up with your own designs. And we can see now, I think the trees help the bridge integrate a little more, especially with the fencing as well. I think it's a happy little design, I think, isn't it? I think it is. Okay guys, but that is going to do it for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, a like below is always appreciated. Equally much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. If you are new to the channel, we do have a real keen focus on the unmodded PC game, trying to make cities as detailed and as beautiful as we possibly can. And this stat right here gives you a nice little highway exit idea. It also gives you a solid little suburban grid that can be expanded at will and tweaked and just played with until you get used to the game. And also how we can kind of focus a couple of our service buildings around an initial town centre design. Just to kind of make it a little more interesting rather than placing schools on a road and moving on from them away into the rest of the city. We will continue to expand this on Sunday's live stream, and again, as I have mentioned, if you are new to the channel, I will link all of my series below. This includes Palaven, which is my main Let's Play series, also the Cities Skylines build guide, which was the series before Palaven, and also some modular builds if you get to the point in your city where you have no idea what to build and you're just repeating the same patterns, then maybe introduce a modular build into your map, such as like an office park or a tram plaza. You know, there's a million different combinations you can do. All of those will be linked down in the description below as well. But anyway, I will shut up and leave it there. I'll see you all on Sunday's live stream to carry on expanding this city and how we can make things a little more interesting and start to break away from that grid. But otherwise, this will do it for how to start your city for 2021. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please do feel free to drop that in the comments. And if you would like to get involved in our lucky little community, then we have a Discord, which is also linked below as well. Otherwise, I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.